The phone rang at exactly 2:47 in the afternoon. I remember the time because I was watching my favorite cooking show, and the host was just about to reveal the secret ingredient. I almost didn't answer. My daughter Sarah would be picking up my grandson Oliver from school in 20 minutes anyway, so who could be calling? But something made me reach for the phone. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the particular urgency in the ringtone. Whatever it was, I'm glad I listened. Mrs. Patterson? The voice on the other end was shaking. Actually shaking. Yes, this is she. Who's calling? This is Emily Chun, Oliver's second-grade teacher. I need you to come to the school right now. Please. And Mrs. Patterson? She paused, and I could hear her take a deep, trembling breath. Don't tell anyone why you're coming. Just come alone. My heart dropped into my stomach. Is Oliver hurt? What happened? He's physically fine, but please, you need to get here immediately. I can't explain over the phone. Park in the back lot near the gymnasium. I'll meet you at the side entrance. She hung up before I could ask anything else. I stood there for a moment, my mind racing through every terrible possibility. An accident? A fight? Had someone said something inappropriate to him? My hand was shaking as I grabbed my keys and purse. I didn't even turn off the television. The drive to Riverside Elementary took 12 minutes, but it felt like hours. I kept trying to call Sarah, but her phone went straight to voicemail. She was probably in one of her endless work meetings. My daughter was a project manager at a tech company, and lately, she'd been drowning in deadlines and presentations. I pulled into the back parking lot as instructed. The school looked normal from the outside. Kids' artwork in windows, the flag waving gently in the spring breeze, the playground empty and waiting for tomorrow's recess. Nothing seemed wrong. But when Miss Chin opened the side door, I knew immediately that something was very, very wrong. Her face was pale, almost gray. Her eyes were red and puffy, like she'd been crying. She was a young teacher, maybe 26 or 27, and right now she looked absolutely terrified. "Thank God you're here," she whispered, practically pulling me inside. She looked both ways down the hallway before closing the door. "We need to go to the computer lab. And Mrs. Patterson, I need you to prepare yourself." Prepare myself for what? Where's Oliver? He's in my classroom with the teaching assistant. He doesn't know anything is wrong. He thinks he's just having extra reading time. She started walking quickly down the hallway, her shoes squeaking on the polished floor. "Mrs. Patterson, does your daughter work for a company called Nexus Technologies?" I blinked in surprise. "Yes, she does." "Why?" Miss Chin didn't answer. She just opened the door to the computer lab and gestured for me to come inside. The room was empty except for one man, sitting at a desk in the corner. He was maybe in his 40s, wearing a button-down shirt and khakis, with glasses perched on his nose. He stood up when we entered, and I could see he looked just as shaken as Miss Chan. "Mrs. Patterson, this is David Kim, our IT coordinator," Miss Chin said. "David, please show her." David nodded and gestured to the computer screen in front of him. "I need to warn you, this is going to be shocking. But I want you to understand that Oliver didn't do anything wrong. He's just a kid. He didn't understand what he was looking at. What are you talking about?" I demanded, my patience wearing thin. "Someone please tell me what's going on." David took a deep breath and turned the monitor toward me. "This morning, Oliver brought an iPad to school. He told Miss Chun it was his mom's work iPad, and he asked if he could use it during free time to play educational games. Miss Chun said yes. Think you'll be fine." "Okay," I said slowly. And during lunch, Oliver was showing some of the other kids something on the iPad. Another teacher noticed and asked what they were looking at. When she saw the screen, she immediately brought Oliver to Miss Chun. He paused, his hand hovering over the mouse. Oliver had accidentally opened a folder on the iPad, a folder full of documents that should never, ever be seen by children or by anyone outside of a very secure environment. He clicked the mouse, and my blood ran cold. On the screen were photographs of documents. Even from where I stood, I could see they were marked with red stamps. Confidential, top secret, classified. "Oh my God," I whispered. "It gets worse," Mission said quietly. Oliver thought the documents were cool. He liked the stamps and the official-looking seals. So he started taking pictures of them with the school's iPad that we use for class projects. Then he used our classroom's airdrop feature to share them with 3 of his friends. You know, the way kids share silly photos and memes. I felt like the floor was tilting beneath me. How many documents? David's face was grim. At least 47 pages. Maybe more. We're still trying to account for everything. Mrs. Patterson, these aren't just company secrets. These are government contracts, defense projects, things that involve national security. I had to sit down. My legs simply wouldn't hold me anymore. Sarah, I said weakly, my daughter, she's going to prison. They're going to think she leaked classified information. That's why we called you and not the authorities, Mission said, pulling up a chair next to me. Yet, Mrs. Patterson, I need you to understand something. Legally, we are required to report this. We have maybe 2 hours before the principal finishes his off-site meeting and comes back to the building. When he finds out, he'll have no choice but to call the police and probably Homeland Security. 2 hours. I repeated numbly. We wanted to give you a chance to figure out what happened, David said. To talk to your daughter before this becomes an official investigation. Because once that happens, everything changes. They'll seize all the devices, interview everyone, and your daughter will be arrested before she can even explain. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 3:15. Sarah would be leaving work soon to pick up Oliver. I needed to think fast. Can you delete the photos Oliver took? I asked, from the school's iPad and the other kid devices? David shook his head. I already thought of that. But it's too late. One of the kids already uploaded a photo to a cloud account. If we start deleting things now, it'll look like we're covering something up. And honestly, Mrs. Patterson, this is way beyond my ability to handle. These documents involve things that are so far above my security clearance that I'm probably already in trouble just for seeing them. Then what do we do? I asked desperately. Mischin leaned forward. We need to understand how this happened. Your daughter is careful, right? She wouldn't just leave something like this accessible on an iPad that her 7-year-old could find. I thought about Sarah, my brilliant, exhausted, overworked daughter, single mother, 60-hour work weeks, constant pressure, living on coffee and determination. And then I remembered. Oh, no, I breathed. Oh, no, no, no. What? Mischin asked urgently. Last week, Sarah called me in a panic. She'd spilled coffee all over her regular iPad at home, the one Oliver uses for homework and games. It was completely fried. She said she'd have to buy a new one, but money was tight, and she was in the middle of this huge project at work. I pressed my hands to my face. She must have let Oliver use her work iPad temporarily, just until she could afford to replace the broken one. But these files, David said, pointing at the screen, they should have been password protected. Encrypted. How did a 7-year-old access them? I closed my eyes, remembering another phone call from a few days ago. Sarah told me Oliver had been watching her enter her passwords. She said it was cute how observant he was. She said he could unlock her phone and iPad now because he'd memorized all her passwords. I looked up at them. She thought it was adorable. She posted about it on Facebook. The 3 of us sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the situation crushing down on us. Mrs. Patterson, Mission finally said, your daughter is going to face serious criminal charges. Even if it was an accident, even if she didn't mean to give Oliver access to classified files, the law doesn't care. She violated security protocols. She allowed top-secret information to be compromised. Do you understand what I'm saying? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. She could go to federal prison for years. And Oliver, Mischin continued, her own voice breaking, Oliver is going to be interviewed by federal agents. He's going to be questioned about what he saw, what he showed his friends, what he understood. He's 7 years old, Mrs. Patterson. This is going to traumatize him. Not to mention the other children, David added. The ones Oliver showed the documents to. Their families will be interviewed. Their devices will be seized. This is going to turn into a massive investigation that affects dozens of people. I stood up suddenly, my mind made up. I need to see the documents. I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. David hesitated. Mrs. Patterson, I really shouldn't. Please, I begged. If I'm going to help my daughter, I need to know everything. He looked at Miss Chun, who nodded slowly. Then he pulled up the files. What I saw made my blood run even colder. These weren't just boring corporate documents or regular classified material. These were detailed plans for military defense systems, satellite technology, encryption methods used by the government, budget allocations for covert operations, and there, in the corner of several documents, was a name that made me gasp. Project Nightfall. I read aloud. That's what Sarah's been working on. She mentioned it a few weeks ago. She said it was the biggest project of her career, but she couldn't tell me any details. Do you know what Project Nightfall is? David asked. I shook my head. No, but apparently Oliver does. Or at least he's seen all the plans. Mission pulled out her phone. I took some notes during lunch when Oliver was talking about the documents. I wanted to write down what he said before I forgot. She scrolled through her notes. He told the other kids that his mom was working on something really cool. Something about computers that can see in the dark and find bad guys. He said there were pictures of big machines and maps with dots all over them. Surveillance systems, David said grimly. Probably classified tracking technology. I felt like I was going to be sick. How did Sarah even get these files on her personal iPad? Wouldn't they be on a secure server? They should be, David agreed, but people make mistakes. Maybe she downloaded them to work from home. Maybe she was preparing a presentation. Either way, the moment those files left a secure server and ended up on an unsecure device, your daughter committed a federal crime. The clock now read 3:35. Time was running out. What would you do? I asked them both. If this was your daughter, what would you do? Miss Chun and David exchanged glances. Finally, Miss Chun spoke. If it were me, I'd call a lawyer before I called anyone else. Then I'd call your daughter and tell her not to go home, not to go to work, and not to talk to anyone until a lawyer is present. Once this breaks, there's going to be a media storm. It's going to be portrayed as a major security breach. Your daughter needs protection. But we still have to report this, David reminded her. We can't hide it. I know, Mission said, but we can give Mrs. Patterson until 5 p.m. before we call the principal. That gives her an hour and a half to get things in order. I grabbed my purse. Thank you, both of you. You didn't have to do this. We're doing it for Oliver, Mission said softly. He's a sweet kid. He doesn't deserve to have his childhood destroyed because his mom made a mistake. I ran out of school to my car, my hand shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. I tried calling Sarah again. Still voicemail. Then I remembered her assistant. Her assistant would know where she was. I scrolled through my contacts and found the number Sarah had given me for emergencies. A young woman answered on the second ring. Nexus Technologies, Amanda speaking. Amanda! This is Carol Patterson, Sarah Patterson's mother. I need to speak with her immediately. It's a family emergency. Oh, Mrs. Patterson. I'm so sorry, but Sarah left early today. She said something about needing to pick up Oliver and then run some errands. She should be at the school by now. My heart stopped. What time did she leave? About 20 minutes ago. Is everything okay? I hung up without answering. Sarah was on her way to the school right now. She'd be there in less than 10 minutes, expecting to pick up her son like it was any other day. She had no idea that her life was about to implode. I called her cell phone again. This time, she answered. Mom, what's wrong? I'm almost at Oliver's school. Sarah, listen to me very carefully. I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Do not go to the school. Turn your car around right now and meet me at Murphy's Coffee Shop on Main Street. Do you understand? What? Mom, I can't just not pick up Oliver. What are you talking about? Sarah, I practically shouted. I am at Oliver's school right now. Oliver is fine. But you need to trust me and do exactly what I say. Turn your car around. Meet me at Murphy's in 5 minutes. Do not ask questions. Do not call anyone. Just do it. There was a long pause. Then, quietly, she said, "Okay, I'm turning around now." I made it to Murphy's coffee shop in 4 minutes, probably breaking several traffic laws in the process. Sarah's car pulled in right behind mine. She got out, her face full of confusion and worry. "Mom, what is going on? You're scaring me." I took her hand and led her to a table in the back corner, far from the other customers. Then I told her everything. With each word, I watched the color drain from her face. By the time I finished, she was shaking. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God, oh my God." I let Oliver use my work iPad. I was so tired, and his was broken, and I just thought he'd play some games. I didn't think, I never imagined. "Sarah, focus," I said firmly. "We don't have time for panic. We have maybe an hour before the school reports this. We need a lawyer. Now." She nodded, pulling out her phone with trembling hands. James Reeves. He's a corporate attorney I know through work. He might know someone who handles this kind of thing." She made the call, speaking quickly and urgently. I watched her face cycle through expressions. Fear, relief, more fear, hope, determination. Finally, she hung up. He's calling someone. A criminal defense attorney who specializes in classified information cases. She's supposed to call me back in 5 minutes. Sarah looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Mom, I could go to prison. Oliver could be taken away from me. What have I done?" "You made a mistake," I said, gripping her hands. "A terrible, stupid mistake, but still just a mistake. We're going to fix this." Her phone rang. She answered, listened, and then handed it to me. "She wants to talk to you, too." The voice on the other end was crisp and professional. "Mrs. Patterson, my name is Victoria Morse. I'm a defense attorney specializing in federal security cases. I've heard the basics from Mr. Reeves. First question, has anyone from law enforcement contacted your daughter yet?" "No," I said. "The school is giving us until 5 p.m. before they report it." "Good. That gives us time. Second question, does your daughter's employer know about this?" "Not yet." "Even better. Here's what we're going to do. Mrs. Patterson, I need you to go back to that school and talk to the teacher and IT person. Tell them that Sarah is cooperating fully and will self-report this incident within the next 2 hours. That's important. Self-reporting shows good faith and may reduce charges. Then I need you to pick up Oliver and take him to your house. Keep him calm and away from any devices or news. Can you do that?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Good. Sarah, are you listening?" "Yes." My daughter said shakily, "You and I are going to meet at my office in 30 minutes. Before you go there, you need to call your supervisor at Nexus Technologies. Tell them there's been a security incident involving your work iPad and that you're meeting with legal counsel. Do not give details. Do not try to minimize it. Just state facts. Then come straight to my office. Do not stop anywhere. Do not talk to anyone else." "Understood." "Understood," Sarah said. "Mrs. Patterson, we have a very narrow window here. If we handle this correctly, we might be able to frame this as an accidental exposure rather than a deliberate breach. Your daughter's employment history, her security clearance record, everything will matter. But we need to control the narrative before law enforcement does. Are you both ready?" I looked at Sarah, my beautiful, exhausted, terrified daughter who had just made the worst mistake of her life. "We're ready," I said. Victoria continued. "One more thing. The children who saw the documents, they need to be interviewed by someone from my firm before federal agents get to them. We need to establish that Oliver didn't understand what he was looking at and that he wasn't trying to distribute classified information. He's 7. His intent matters. Mrs. Patterson, can you get permission from those children's parents for my associate to speak with them?" "I'll try," I promised. "Good. We have a lot of work to do and very little time. Let's move." The call ended. Sarah and I sat there for a moment, looking at each other. "Mom," she said softly, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know, honey. But we don't have time for apologies right now. We have time for action. I stood up. Go call your boss. Then go meet with Victoria. I'll handle Oliver in the school. She nodded and walked her car, pulling out her phone. I could see her hands shaking as she dialed. I drove back to Riverside Elementary. Miss Chun and David were waiting for me in the computer lab. Sarah's getting a lawyer. I told him quickly. She's going to self-report the incident within 2 hours. The lawyer says that's important. It shows cooperation and good faith. Miss Chun nodded. That's smart. It'll look better than if we report it first, and she looks like she was trying to hide it. The lawyer also wants to talk to the other children. I continued. The ones Oliver showed the documents to. She wants to establish that they didn't understand what they were seeing. Can you help me get permission from their parents? David frowned. That's going to be complicated. We'll have to tell the parents why we need permission. I know, but it's better they hear from us than from FBI agents showing up at their door. Mischin made a decision. Okay, I'll call the parents and ask them to come to the school immediately for an urgent matter. We'll explain in person. It'll be better that way. While she made the calls, I went to get Oliver. He was sitting at a desk in Miss Chen's classroom, reading a book about dinosaurs. When he saw me, his face lit up. Grandma, what are you doing here? Your mom had to work late, buddy, so I'm picking you up today. How does ice cream sound? Really? Yes. He jumped up and grabbed his backpack. Can we get chocolate chip? Absolutely, I said, taking his small hand in mine. My heart was breaking. This sweet, innocent child had no idea of the chaos he'd accidentally created. As we walked to my car, Oliver chattered happily about his day. He told me about the math game they'd played, the story Miss Chun had read during story time, and how he'd helped water the classroom plants. He didn't mention the iPad. He didn't mention the documents. To him, it had just been another normal day. I got him settled in my car and drove to the local ice cream shop. While he ate his chocolate chip cone, I called the lawyer's office. Victoria Morse's office. A receptionist answered. This is Carol Patterson. I need to speak with Victoria or her associate about interviewing some children. One moment, please. A different voice came on the line. Mrs. Patterson, this is Michael Torres, Victoria's associate. I understand you've identified the children who saw the classified documents. Yes. Their teacher is contacting the parents now to have them come to school. Perfect. I can be there in 20 minutes. What I need from you is simple. Get signed permission forms from each parent allowing me to speak with their child in their presence. I'll ask gentle questions designed to establish that the children didn't understand the nature of what they saw. This will be crucial for Oliver's case. I understand. How's Oliver doing? I looked at my grandson, who was covered in ice cream, and laughing at something he'd seen through the shop window. He's fine. He doesn't know anything is wrong. Keep it that way for now. Children pick up on adult anxiety. The more normal everything seems to him, the better. After Oliver finished his ice cream, I took him back to my house. I put on his favorite cartoon and let him play with the toy cars he kept at my place. He was completely content, completely oblivious. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Meeting with lawyer now. Thank you for everything, Mom. I love you. I texted back. Love you too. We'll get through this. But would we? I sat down on my couch, suddenly overwhelmed by exhaustion. In the span of 2 hours, my family's entire world had been turned upside down. Sarah was facing federal charges. Oliver was involved in a classified information leak. Our lives would never be the same. The next few hours passed in a blur. Mischin called to tell me that all 3 parents had arrived at the school. Michael Torres had interviewed their children with the parents present. The children confirmed what Oliver had told them. They'd seen papers with cool stamps and official-looking seals, but they hadn't understood what any of it meant. They thought Oliver was just showing them boring grown-up stuff. That was good news. It supported the narrative that Oliver had accidentally stumbled onto something he didn't understand, rather than deliberately trying to access or distribute classified information. At exactly 4:45 p.m., Sarah called me. Mom, Victoria's going to call the FBI's local field office in 15 minutes. She's arranged for me to come in voluntarily tomorrow morning for questioning. She's also contacted Nexus Technologies' legal department. They're putting together a report on how the security breach occurred. How are you holding up? I asked. She laughed, but it was a hollow sound. I've been better. Mom, they told me I should prepare for possibility of arrest. Even with self-reporting and cooperation, the charges are serious. Victoria thinks they might offer a plea deal, reduce charges in exchange for full cooperation and testimony about security procedures at Nexus. What does that mean for you? It means I might avoid prison, but I'll definitely lose my security clearance, which means I'll lose my job, and I'll probably never work in my field again. Her voice broke. I spent 10 years building my career, Mom. 10 years. And I destroyed it in one careless moment. Sarah, I let my 7-year-old son handle classified defense documents because I was too tired and too cheap to buy him a new iPad. What kind of mother does that? What kind of professional? You're human, I said firmly. You made a mistake. A big mistake. Yes, but you're human and humans make mistakes. Some mistakes cost more than others, she said quietly. We talked for a few more minutes before she had to go. Victoria needed to finalize the statement they'd be giving to federal investigators. I hung up and went to check on Oliver. He'd fallen asleep on my couch, his hand still clutching a toy car. He looked so peaceful, so innocent. How was I going to explain to him that his life was about to change dramatically? The next morning, Sarah went to the FBI field office with Victoria. I kept Oliver home from school, telling him his mom needed a day off, and we were having a special grandma day. We went to the park, played games, and ate pizza for lunch. I tried to give him one more perfect day before everything fell apart. Sarah called me at 3 p.m. It's done. I gave a full statement. They're charging me with mishandling classified information and failure to maintain proper security protocols. Victoria negotiated a deal. If I cooperate fully with their investigation and testify about security procedures at Nexus, they'll recommend reduced charges. I'll probably get probation instead of prison time. That's good news, I said, relief flooding through me. Maybe, but Mom, Nexus fired me this morning. My security clearance has been revoked, and the FBI wants to interview Oliver. What? They need to establish the timeline of events and confirm that he didn't understand what he was looking at. Victoria will be there, and so will a child psychologist. They'll make it as gentle as possible, but it has to happen. I looked at Oliver, who was building a tower out of blocks on my living room floor. Tomorrow morning, at Victoria's office, it'll be less intimidating than the FBI building. That evening, Sarah came to my house. She sat down with Oliver and explained things in the simplest terms possible. Sweetie, remember the iPad you used at school yesterday? The one with Mommy's work files. Oliver nodded, looking confused. Yeah, did I do something wrong? No, baby, you didn't do anything wrong. But those files were very private work things that weren't supposed to leave Mommy's office. So tomorrow, we're going to talk to some nice people who need to understand what happened. They're going to ask you questions, but you just need to tell the truth, okay? You're not in trouble. Am I in trouble? He asked, his lower lip trembling. No, sweetheart, nobody's in trouble. We just need to explain what happened. But that was a lie, and we both knew it. Sarah was in tremendous trouble. Her career was over. Her reputation was destroyed. Even if she avoided prison, she carried this mistake for the rest of her life. The interview the next morning was gentle, as promised. The FBI agents asked Oliver simple questions. When did he use the iPad? What did he look at? What did he show his friends? Did he understand what the documents were about? Oliver answered honestly. He thought the stamps were cool. He liked how official everything looked. He wanted to show his friends because it looked important, like spy stuff from movies. He didn't understand any of the words. He just thought it looked neat. The child psychologist confirmed that Oliver had no understanding of the classified nature of what he'd seen. He was a typical 7-year-old who'd stumbled onto something that looked interesting and wanted to share it with friends. There was no malicious intent, no understanding of consequences, no comprehension of the security implications. That helped Sarah's case. The investigation confirmed that while she committed a serious security violation, there was no evidence of deliberate espionage or intentional distribution of classified information. It was a catastrophic accident, nothing more. 3 months later, Sarah stood in federal court and pleaded guilty to mishandling classified information. The judge sentenced her to 2 years of probation, 200 hours of community service, and a $10,000 fine. She avoided prison, but her security clearance was permanently revoked. Finding a new job was nearly impossible. Her name had been in the news. Every potential employer in her field knew about the incident. Finally, she found work as a project coordinator for a small nonprofit organization. The pay was a fraction of what she'd earned at Nexus, but it was honest work, and it kept food on the table. Oliver had nightmares for months. He'd wake up crying, afraid that men in suits were going to come take his mommy away. Sarah and I both went to therapy with him, helping him process the trauma of being interviewed by federal agents and having his innocent mistake turn into a national security incident. The other children were less affected. Thankfully, their parents have been understanding, recognizing that the kids had just been caught in an unfortunate situation. But there were whispers at school, and one family moved away rather than deal with the ongoing attention. Miss Chun and David faced their own consequences. They were investigated for their delay in reporting the incident, though ultimately no charges were filed. The school board reprimanded them but acknowledged that they'd acted in good faith. Try and give a family a chance to seek legal counsel before facing federal prosecution. It's been a year now. Sarah and Oliver have moved in with me permanently. We couldn't afford to maintain 2 households on her reduced salary. Oliver is 8 now, in 3rd grade, and slowly returning to his normal, happy self. He doesn't bring electronic devices to school anymore. None of us are very fond of iPads these days. Sarah is slowly rebuilding her life. She's dating a teacher she met through Oliver's school. She volunteers at a local community center. She's learned to live with less money, less prestige, less of everything she'd worked so hard to achieve. Sometimes, late at night, she cries. She mourns a career she lost, the future she planned, the person she used to be. And I hold her, the way I did when she was a little girl, and remind her that she's still here, still alive, still loved. The classified documents that Oliver accidentally exposed led to a complete overhaul of security procedures at Nexus Technologies and other defense contractors. New protocols were implemented. Training programs were revised. The incident became a cautionary tale in the industry about the importance of maintaining proper security measures, even at home. As for me, I still jump every time my phone rings at an unexpected hour. That afternoon when Miss Chin called, when I heard the terror in her voice, changed something fundamental in me. I learned that normal life can transform into a nightmare in seconds. I learned that one small mistake can have enormous consequences. I learned that protecting the people we love sometimes means making impossible choices in impossibly short amounts of time. But I also learned that families are resilient, that love matters more than careers or reputations or security clearances, that children are stronger than we give them credit for, and that even in the darkest moments, even when everything seems lost, there's always a path forward if you're willing to fight for it. Oliver still asks questions sometimes. He wants to know why Mommy can't work with computers anymore, why we had to move, why people sometimes whisper when they see us at the grocery store. And we tell him the truth in age-appropriate ways. We tell him that Mommy made a mistake, and mistakes have consequences, but that doesn't mean Mommy is a bad person. We tell him that the most important thing is learning from our mistakes and doing better next time. We tell him that families stick together, no matter what. He seems to accept this. Children are remarkably good at accepting difficult truths when they're presented with love and honesty. The other day, Oliver came home from school with a picture he'd drawn. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands, him, Sarah, and me. Above us, he'd written in his careful 2nd grade handwriting, "My family is strong." I hung that picture on the refrigerator, and every time I look at it, I remember that terrible day when Miss Chin called me, sounding terrified. I remember the fear, the panic, the desperate scramble to fix an unfixable situation. But I also remember the love that carried us through, the strength we found in each other, the grace of teachers and lawyers, and even some federal agents who saw family in crisis and chose compassion when they could have chosen harshness. We survived. We're still surviving. And somehow that's enough